Welcome to the Business of Apparel podcast. This is the place to learn how to start and scale your own apparel brand and fill it with loyal customers for years to come. I'm your host, Rachel Erickson, owner and CEO of Unmarked Street, and I can't wait to share this episode with you. Welcome back to the Business of Apparel podcast. Today I have with me someone who I am so lucky to have met recently. Martha Schoenewe is the owner of Tangent Tees, and she is one of the giveaway winners that we had back in November for one of our brand audits. And so I am really lucky to have been working with her over the last few months, just helping her get her 5-year, 10-year business plan down on paper so that as she moves forward as a brand, she knows all of those fun little milestones that she's going to be hitting. And it's been just such a pleasure to get to know you, Martha. Like, I kind of feel like we're becoming fast friends. And I'm just so impressed with all the work that you've done. So I'm so excited to have you here today. Thanks for being here.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. It is so nice of you to invite me on here, and really all of the work and the confidence that you've put in me through this whole process has been really special. So thank you.
Oh, good. Yeah, I mean, you should have all the confidence in your brand. Like, it is going to take off, and it is just going to be everything that you need it to be and want it to be. I know it. Like, I can feel it. Yeah. So I'm so excited for you.
Yeah.
And while we get onto that, why don't you tell us a little bit about Tangent Tees and your mission for the brand?
Yeah. So I started Tangent Tees because when I was teaching myself to love running until I didn't hate it anymore, I very quickly discovered that plus size people don't have anything outside of like a gray or a black or really mundane shirt, especially in a technical fabric. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of nuts. So let me do something about this 4 years later. So that's kind of where I started. And what I'm doing now is I am creating unique shirts, like unique designs on shirts for people of any size. So any shirt that I offer is available in a 5X all the way through an extra small. And I'm really proud to stick with that and not charge extra based on your size. It is across the board. So I'm kind of excited to start with that. And then in a couple years, I have some exciting plans in the pipeline.
Yeah, you do. That's awesome. So how long have you been running?
You got to make it a little unique.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. How long have you been running?
Gosh. Okay. So I started running 5 years ago.
Love it.
Yeah. When my daughter was a couple years old, I was like, all right, I need a new challenge. I've already fixed some back issues. I need like a new thing to do. And I was like, wait, I hated running when I was in the military. Hated it. Avoided it like a true sailor. Avoided it unless it was time for the PT test. And I was like, man, I really don't like the feeling of hating something. Yeah. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to run until I don't hate it. I don't have to love it, but I'm going to run until I don't hate it. And I happened across a couple of really amazing groups with some really strong women. And that's kind of where it started, because we were looking for matching shirts. Couldn't find them. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean I can only find a cotton tank? Who wants to run in that?
Yeah.
Like, no, ew. So I was like, all right, the run club that I'm in, us slower runners, our run times are based on color. So
I love
we're the
that.
purple team. So we're like, yeah, purple power. I'm going to like do something with purple and we're going to make this fun. So even the brand's colors came from all of this like support and encouragement and empowerment from the San Antonio Roadrunners.
Oh, I love that so much.
It is a great running team, and literally any shape, size, speed, you name it, we are literally there. So it's like,
that's amazing.
Thank you guys for, kind of encouraging me to find something new.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like just being a part of the run community I feel like a lot of people have similar stories. Like when I was younger and in high school and stuff, like I played volleyball.
Oh, cool. Okay.
I played lots of ball sports. And so running was always punishment, right?
Yeah.
Like,
go run laps.
You needed to be able to do it. Yeah. But it was like go run laps, or I don't think they call them ladders now. We used to call them suicides. I don't think we're allowed to call them that anymore.
No, we can't call them that, but I didn't know the new term.
Yeah. So we run ladders all the time. And so whenever I got into running, I have a similar story. Like I hated it. And it
Yeah.
was just to a point where, okay, I'm going to try to figure this out until I don't hate it. And there comes a point, have you hit the point yet where you start to get a little bit like runner's euphoria?
Oh my
And
gosh.
when you do start going to run, you just feel amazing.
I still hate miles 1 through 3. Hate them.
Okay, fair.
So even if I'm doing
No, I
like
know what you mean. Yeah,
even
it's
if I'm
like
doing a
it's
5K,
during your run. Yeah.
that last tenth of a mile, that I'm going to enjoy. The 3 miles
Yeah.
before that, in my brain, I'm going, this sucks. Why am I doing this? I am out of shape, or this is just not for me. I could do so many other things. Where's my coffee? Hey, finish line. Oh, and there's a medal. Oh, hey, look at us encouraging each other across the finish line together. And
Yeah.
mile 6,
No,
if
I
I'm
love
doing a
that.
long run, mile 6 is my like sweet spot. That's where I
Yeah.
get that high. I get all the endorphins, the dopamine, whatever is like flooding my body. And I'm like, yeah, I
I
could keep
totally
doing this.
agree. And that like runner's high is kind of addictive once you finally experience it.
It is, yeah. You have to keep
Love
going
it.
though. It's like then
You do.
you have to figure out like what your distance is
Yeah,
because it's like,
definitely.
okay,
And
do
you
I want
mentioned
to
a
do
few,
races? Do I just want to run for me? Where do I get the high? And where do I
yeah,
really just not want to be?
yeah, and that's so true. Like, do you just want to run for fun? Do you want to do racing?
Yeah,
And you mentioned like overcoming a couple of injuries too. Like right now, I haven't been running a ton because I've got some knee issues going on. I'm trying to like rehab that, but
that's no
I
fun.
think that that's a common thing too. Have you had anything like that since starting running, or has it been
Um,
okay?
yeah, so I had kind of an embarrassing oops moment
Oh
too,
no.
actually, and they were both 10Ks. So one of them, I ran a 10K and I didn't know that it was when I was a baby runner, right? I didn't know what I was doing. I'm just like, ooh, this sounds fun. It's a 10K. No, first of all, it was a 10 mile, not a 10K.
Oh, that's a big difference.
And I also didn't realize that there's a huge difference between road running and trail running.
Hmm. Yep.
And this was a trail race. I had only ever been a road runner.
It was a 10-mile trail run.
And it had rained recently. So there's a
Oh my
lot of
goodness.
mud. And where I live, there's like a lot of clay in it. So like it sticks to your
Oh my
boots.
goodness.
And to top it off, I didn't know that I was 2 months pregnant. I didn't know why I
No
felt
way.
horrible.
This is quite the
It
story.
was so bad. Luckily, there was this angel of a woman, and I can remember her face. I have never seen her since. And if I ever find her again, I'm just going to give her a great big hug
Oh,
because we're going through this kind of narrow turn that's particularly troublesome with some rocks and mud. And she just looks at me. She goes, hey, are you doing okay? And this was maybe halfway through it. I'm like, yeah, I got this. It's also 85 degrees, by the way, in this race.
yeah, it's Texas, right? Yeah.
It was like April or March. And I'm like, yeah, no, I got this. She's just like, did you bring any nutrition? Like, your snacks or your fuel for
Yep.
running?
Yep.
I'm like, no. It's just, it's just a 10K. I'll be fine. I'll get something in. I'm like, and she's like, honey, there is no 10K distance on this one. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll be fine. She's like, did you bring water? I'm like, no, I'll get some at the weigh stations because this particular race series, they're really good about having water every 2
Yeah.
miles. I'm like, no. She's like, you need to not get water. You need to get the Gatorade every time. And also, she's
Yeah.
like, I swear I don't have cooties. Please trust me. You need this salt and you kind of need it now. Because she could see, like, the kind of
Yep.
gross sweat
Yep.
crusty
It
that's
starts to
happening
accumulate on your
when
skin.
your
Yeah.
body's like, hey, you're not taking care of yourself.
Yes. Yes.
And she's just like, here, like, she's telling me, like, lick my hand as if you're going to do, like, a shot or something. And she's pouring the salt on. I'm like, okay, thanks. I was so clueless.
Oh.
But I truly don't think that I would have made it to the end of that race. I would have been lost somewhere.
Oh my
They would have
goodness.
had to scoop me up. So, angel of a woman there. Thankfully, no injury, but man, that was not smart choices.
I feel like I've run a couple half marathons, and I feel like I've had a couple where like right in like that last mile, I'm like almost there and I totally bonk.
Yeah.
And all you can do to just walk across the finish line.
Yeah.
And But the running community, I think to your point, like the running community is so amazing and like
Sure.
people helping each other and just cheering each other on. And like when I did that, there were just so many people like helping me get to the finish
Yeah,
line and helping me make sure that I got there. It was, it's a special place to be. So I think it's a
it is.
great niche for you.
Oh yeah. I've run 5 half marathons, loved them
Awesome.
all. But mile 9 is where I need some support. And every single time I've like found people, they're just like, hey, I have that snack. Yeah, let's go. Hey, let's walk
Yep.
it out for a little bit. Cause I do interval running. So I'll usually run for 90 seconds, walk for 30, and I'll do that the whole way.
Perfect.
And because I found it's a really good balance to take care of my knees and my back from some previous
Yeah.
injuries. But man, the support is
Yeah.
is so cool.
Yeah.
I
It
super
really is.
appreciate it. The
Yeah.
only like actual injury I've had, thankfully, was when I accidentally stepped off of some asphalt.
Oh,
Excuse
yeah.
me.
Did you roll an ankle?
I actually ended up with some, I forget, there was like a technical name for it, but a bunch of small hairline fractures in my foot. And
Ooh,
I ended up
ow.
having to take off for the rest of the season.
Oh, no.
And it
Yeah,
was
that's the worst.
and it was a safety thing. So I had my sunglasses on. It's in the middle of summer, Texas, hot. And I'm like, oh, I don't need to wipe them off. I know where I'm going. Like, we're all running up in this kind of line, this last quarter mile. Last quarter mile.
Oh,
And I go down, my leg goes under me. And it's because I couldn't see where I was going. There was so much moisture on my sunglasses
oh wow. Yeah.
that I was just sort of winging it, not thinking, oh, hey, there's crumbling asphalt on the side here. Kind of like a very stereotypical blonde moment. I was blonde. Yeah, it's a thing. So that was a real bummer. But because of that community, and there's so much volunteerism too, I
Yeah.
wasn't like down for the count, so to say. I had to stop running for 10 weeks.
Wow.
And that was really hard. But I could still volunteer and I could still help set up courses and I could man water stations. And they're like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, oh, just stretching it out. Great job,
Yeah.
guys. And we allowed each other to like acknowledge where we're at. Say, yeah, you know what? That really sucks that you got hurt, but we're so
Yeah.
glad to see you. I'm glad you're here today. And those little
Oh, I
nuggets
love that.
of like knowing that people are glad to see you, that can really help somebody when they're, especially if they're kind of down because they're stress relief or an activity they really rely on just sort of
Yep.
gets on pause for a minute. But
I totally agree. I
love the
love that.
community.
Are you frustrated by feeling like an outsider in your own industry? You're not alone. I spent years feeling the same way. Are you tired of endless research and you can only learn this stuff by getting a job in fashion advice? Me too. That's why I created the Business of Apparel online course. My years of insider knowledge condensed into video tutorials, demos, and downloads. Learn at your own pace, no fluff. Just key topics like building target profiles and mastering financials. This information is genuinely unavailable anywhere else. Grow your brand, become an apparel industry aficionado, and unlock millions in potential revenue. The value? Over $50,000 with millions potential for your brand. Don't miss out. Sign up for the Business of Apparel online course today at thebusinessofapparel.com/course. I really want to get into a little bit. You've been a part of a couple of different pitch contests,
Yeah.
and it's something that I'm hearing more and more from like people who are coming into our community at Unmarked Street and the Business of Apparel, people who are interested in doing this. And I'd love for you to kind of give a little bit of a background of your experience and if you have any like tips or tricks, because you've done pretty well at your pitch
I
contests.
did okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely some lessons learned too, as always, but I feel like I did all right. Yeah.
Yes, I think you
So,
did.
I did a pitch competition at the Military Entrepreneur Conference up in the Dallas, Arlington area last fall that was sponsored by the Second Service Foundation. Anybody who's, military veteran related, they definitely need to look them up because they are
Yeah.
fantastic.
Shout out to Second Service Foundation.
Oh
for
gosh,
sure.
yeah. The thing that I learned was when you're really passionate about what you're doing and you really know your business, you're developing it yourself, you are the business, right? There's not a whole lot to be nervous about besides the fact that you're in front of a stranger. there is no, you don't really need to put a ton of worry into the content, how you present it, and kind of the finessing of it, of course. But man, when your passion shows and when you see it on
Yeah.
other people's faces when they're doing it, it's just it's kind of like that same feeling as the runner's high, where you get this little adrenaline rush, like, yeah, I do know what I'm doing, and I do love what I'm doing, and I'm on the right path, and here's why I'm excited. And it helps people kind of understand why you're doing it and connect with you and just be like, oh my gosh, she's excited. I want to be excited for her. I don't even know what she's doing yet, but let's follow it. And then we like fed off of each other's energy, myself, other participants, and then folks watching us. I think one thing that kind of like a lesson learned from life experiences was pay attention to your audience, right? Part
Yeah.
of good communication is always your listening skills, but that also means just paying attention to who and what is around you. So the first pitch competition was the one where I was very lucky to make it to the top three. And I think one thing that a lot of us learned was when you're paying attention to the judges, right?
Mm.
Ahead of time, I was like, all right, who's judging? What industry are they in? Okay, what are some things that I think this person, based off of their expertise, what do I think they're going to ask? All right, this person,
Interesting.
they're going
Yeah.
to want to see the numbers, the data, the prove it to me, kind of like if you're going to prove it to a bank, that's what they're going to want to hear.
Yeah.
This other person, okay, based off of their profile, I'm thinking they're going to want to hear more about the passion. What are you giving back to the community? And just sort of figuring out the personality or profile, if you will,
I
of
love
each of the
that.
judges made it easy for me to sort of go, all right, here's the amount of time I have, make a plan, right? Little project
Yep.
manager. Make a little plan of, all right, yes, those are the things I need to address. Um, and then I knew who to make eye contact with when I was making each point.
Oh, that's
So
genius.
that was like, I was like, oh yeah, I could really do this way because
Yes.
they're going to want to hear these things. But if they know that you've done your research, I'm like, oh, hey, Mr. Smith. Yeah. So these numbers, this is what these things are. And then they
Oh,
can
that's so
actually
good.
ask better questions. So with that follow-up piece, I got some really good insight just based off the questions they asked because I was prepared.
I love it.
So I'm like,
That's so good.
oh, hey, you're asking me this. I hadn't thought of it that way. Okay, so here's my answer, because I had all of the
Yeah.
information already in my noggin.
Up in your head.
Yeah.
That's so good. And I think one of the things that has absolutely impressed me about you is how prepared you are about starting your business and just how much you've thought about timeline and budget and all of the little like nuanced steps that are going to be taking there. And so would you attribute a lot of that preparation to needing to be in pitch fests and like needing to be prepared to speak to a lot of that?
Um,
Or is that just
yes,
your personality? You're just
yes, and
baller.
I think yes, and I think pitch competitions really force you to because you're usually submitting from all of them that I've seen, almost all of them require you to do like your one page, right?
Okay.
And even if you've never created a single page document to show here's what I am, here's what I'm doing, here's why you should care, that forces you to think about it in a succinct way. And then I think it really helps, at least it helped me figure out where my gaps in knowledge were.
Mm,
Like, okay, so these are the things I need to address in it. Oh man, I actually have no idea about that. Let me go figure it out. So that kind of helped me. But the yes and part is that I'm a very analytical person by
yeah.
nature and I want to deep dive and I want to figure things out. And yes, I can get really focused on the cool, sexy, shiny stuff. Here's the designs for the business, here's the product. But I also know not to get too hyper focused on the product because how you're setting
Yeah.
yourself up for success, getting the foundation right is so important. Because just like with a house, if you are trying to speed along the drying process for your concrete slab, you're going to end up with a lot of problems down the road. But it's the same for business.
Yep.
If you skip some really important steps, or if you try to rush it along, it might work right now, but give it a few months, give it a few years. And I didn't really want to have those problems that I knew I could avoid.
So, I mean, to me, you like hit the nail on the head with all of that. Like building the foundation of your business, starting with a budget, starting with a plan. Like we see so many people come to us and they already have like 10 different products designed and figure out, and they've already paid a bunch of money to have tech packs built. And
Yeah.
then we built like take them through that upfront process to be like, okay, let's talk budget. And they go, oh, like they're so disappointed when they can't then proceed with like everything that they want to. And so I'd love for you to just continue talking just a little bit on how like doing all that non-sexy work, like it might not be very fun, but
Yeah.
how it's gonna set you up for success and how we are like now putting such a profitability plan to your business.
Yeah. So I made sure that I had that like exciting idea that I wanted to grow, like the flowers that you want to plant out front, right?
Yeah.
And so what I would do is and I'm still doing, is I'll occasionally plant one of those flowers, meaning I will occasionally go, okay, let me feel some more fabrics, or let me work on some designs, or maybe write out the type of artists that I want to find for this project. And because I don't really need that information right now, but I
Yeah.
will. And so
And that's the fun part
it
too.
helps keep me motivated. But because
Yeah.
I'm just kind of sprinkling it along, I'm like, okay, I'm doing that, but you know what? Hey, Martha, you got to get back to working on, building the framework. So for me, that framework is okay, researching the industry, because for me, it's the first time having a business.
Hmm.
And while I understand certain aspects of it, I didn't know what I didn't know.
Sure.
So I would just be like, all right, if you want to start a business in this industry, let me just Google it. I'm not going to make any assumptions. Just be like, hey, I have an idea out of thin air or pretending, and just dive into it. And I'd be like, oh, okay, well, maybe I actually do know more than I thought in my case.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, I'm beyond that. Cool. Sweet. Okay, cool. And in fairness, I kind of had a leg up because I've run a couple of nonprofit organizations before. So I had a good understanding of like overhead and budgets and that kind of thing. And I have a bachelor's degree in business. So that
Oh,
helps.
love it. Yeah.
So, it's not like a, hey, I just popped out and
No, for
I have all
sure.
this
But
information.
I'm
So
sure it
just
helps a little bit.
caveats, right?
Yeah.
And I'm also a project manager. So that, other things that help. But those foundational pieces like the budget, okay, what are some things that need to go into it? Even if we're not organizing it, allowing myself to brain dump onto a piece of paper without worrying about categories. I have
Yeah.
the same idea as whiteboarding, where you're just throwing ideas out.
Yep.
Like, all right, I'm going to have to pay for the website. All right. And I'd have a little section next to it go, all right, that's either monthly or annually. I need to know how often it's happening. So I'm keeping track of how I'm going to have to multiply it or just total amount, whatever. The website, what about the domain? Do I need multiple domains?
Yep.
Am I managing this? Is it something I can handle now, or do I have to start out with hiring somebody?
Hmm.
And each of those things obviously have a cost, right?
Right.
So I would just throw out all of the ideas, all of the possibilities, and then I would kind of funnel it down. Okay, these are essential, but are they essential now?
Mm.
So I didn't start off with a website or a domain. And after I was in that pitch competition, I was lucky enough to receive $1,000 from it. And so what I did with that was I bought the domains because I'm
Love
like,
it.
there's one
Yeah.
thing that needs to be grabbed before someone else has it, because I had a very
Right.
clear idea of what I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, the second that becomes available, I'm grabbing it. So I literally stalked this domain that was due to expire because someone had just sort of scooped it up, but nobody was using it. Once that license expired, I was checking the domain registry at least twice a day for about
Wow.
2 or 3 months after I
Wow.
identified the expiration. The day I got it, oh my gosh, I celebrated.
Good. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So things like that, where it's like, okay, these little wins, but I didn't want to start accumulating expenses before I had to.
Right.
So, like my e-commerce platform, I don't need that right now. I need to know how it works. I need to know how expensive it's going to be, but I don't need to start shelling out money for it until
Right.
I'm almost ready to launch. So, saving
So
myself those
smart.
expenses rather than just sitting there draining money, it would have
Hmm.
been so easy to do
Yep.
and do it backwards like that. I still did it earlier than I should have, but being aware of things like
Yeah.
that is super important to making sure you can stick to a budget. And I think one of the first times you and I talked, it was okay, well, what's your budget? Like, I don't know. Because I was so afraid to put a number on it, because I'm like, well, I don't know what things realistically cost.
Sure.
And I think you had made a very kind comment akin to figure yourself out. Like, okay, you don't know what it's going to cost, but then maybe do a little research. Oh yeah, I should do that. And you were very, very nice about it. But I'm like, I should.
I hope so, but
oh my gosh, you were, because I didn't feel, you weren't making me feel stupid or anything like that.
No, but that is very, that sounds very much like me. Where just push someone just a little bit, like, hey,
yeah,
let's get there.
Setting up a website, it could be, say, $50 if you registering for services, and then you using like a shell of like these little plug and play kind of module things where you just do it yourself.
Yeah.
Or you could be spending $6,500 to have a professional web developer create this initial website for you.
Right.
What's more important, having the shell that functions so you can sell things, or having it look amazing? And that was something that you helped me clarify a lot, because I was like, oh, yeah, that's what I want it to look like eventually, but I don't have to have that now. It's not essential. So then anytime I came to a decision point where I was like, okay, do I need to buy this? Do I have to spend money on it, or do I want to spend money on it? Kind of like the way we do personal budgeting or expenses.
Yeah.
Need or want. And really being hard on myself in that way has honestly saved me thousands of dollars.
Amazing.
In the like startup process.
Wow. It's so good. It's so smart. And I think if more small businesses were functioning like this, they would have a lot more legs to grow and survive longer than they have. You know, the stats on small businesses growing after just 18 months or a couple of years are staggering.
Yeah, it's pretty.
So this is, guys, this is like podcast listener out there. This is really how you do it. You really have to be careful. You really have to be thoughtful. And it is not sexy, but this is why, like, when we put numbers against what Martha has already done, it looks amazing for the next 5 to 10 years. So kudos to you for all of that work that you have done. I'm so excited for your brand. If someone wants to support you and go to your website and check out what you're doing right now, tell us how people can do that.
Yeah. So luckily with that domain I snagged, it's very easy. So it's www.tangent, like I go off on tangents, tangenttees.com. If you misspell it, it's cool. I've got the domain for it.
That's perfect. We'll make sure it's in the show notes too, so that people can just click the link.
Yeah, tangenttees.com. And I'm also on Instagram with tangent_tees, which is where I, of course, found your really amazing contest. Thank you so much for that. And I'm also active on Facebook.
Amazing. Cool. Well, again, kudos to you. I'm so excited to have you in the community, and you know I'm here to help you however you want as you move forward. We're just super excited to be connected with you and to watch your brand grow over the next several years.
Thanks. I'm excited, and hopefully I can help some other small businesses maybe a little bit down the road when they're figuring out, wait, I need to raise capital, but shiny objects. Slow down. Yes, we all need capital, but there's a lot you can learn and do on your own.
Yeah. I think it's just important to remember, you know, taking on a small business and owning your own business and becoming an entrepreneur is kind of a lifelong journey. And so wanting to get there fast is natural. We all want that. We all want to make it happen tomorrow, but it's something even like my coaches have to tell me all the time, like, you just have to be in it for a while and really figure it out. And just like Martha just said, slow down a little bit and know that over time it will happen. You just have to keep sticking with it. So
stick with it, make the connections. You never know.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here with me today, Martha. This was fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yep. Okay. Well, if you liked this episode and you want to leave us a review, please do so. That means so much to us. And we will see you next week. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for listening to the Business of Apparel podcast. I would so appreciate hearing your thoughts on the show. And if you know someone who could benefit from it, please share it with them. My biggest desire is to help other apparel professionals understand the nuances of our industry so we can all work toward making better product for a better world. If you would like to connect further, I love to invite you to send me a message through my website, thebusinessofapparel.com, where I do weekly trainings through my YouTube video channel, a weekly newsletter, blog articles, and so many more resources to help you start and scale a profitable apparel brand. This podcast is produced by Box 7 Media, who I cannot speak highly enough of. If you're looking to start your own podcast, you can reach out to Jeremy at Box 7 Media on LinkedIn anytime.